Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. Today we're going to be addressing a request from one of the channel's supporters, super legend Wesley Stephen. And he asked a bunch of questions, and I'm going to address the first one today. I moved it up the queue because Wesley's been supporting the channel for a bit and had not requested anything. So this seemed to be a topic that would benefit everybody. Wesley says, can you talk about, I'm paraphrasing, the reason why you don't run the same width tires on your bikes? I believe you said you run 25 millimeter in the back and 23 millimeter in the front. Is there a marked or noticeable enhancement in handling and performance in doing so? He says he rotates his tires every 4K miles or so to extend their life. Can't imagine doing so with tires that are not of the same width. Yeah, that's correct. You don't want to do that. It's the same thing on cars. Performance cars have a tendency to have wider tires on the rears, narrower on the front. It's more precise for steering when you have narrower tires on the front. But I have several reasons why I do that. First of all, when I competed back in the day, in the 19s and 18s and the 21, 23 tires were very, very common. Everybody rode narrow tires. So I started out riding 23. I've always been a big guy. So back then, 25s were not that common. In the winter, we would switch to 25. Currently, I'm even thinking about, I ordered a 28 millimeter tire. I bought a wire bead tire because I'm just trying to see if I would like the 28. And I'm going to start using the 28 on the rear, but I'm going to keep the 23 on the front. But anyway, let's fast forward to why I do the staggered tire sizes. First reason is that the rims that I'm using, this is a Campagnolo Zonda wheel. I paid about $320 for the set, so like $160 a wheel. Basic aluminum. I wouldn't call them box rims because they're a little aero, because box rims are flat, but these are pretty close to box rims as you can get nowadays. But I like them because they're light, they're durable. The thing is that the width of the rim itself is about 24 millimeters, okay? So as a rule, as far as aerodynamics and everything, you want to keep the tire close to the size of the rim, as close as possible. So that's one of the reasons I do that, because the 23, when aired up, even though they say it's 23, it's really not 23. It's actually closer to 24. So the 23 is actually closer to 24 when you air it up. So the profile on the rim, they mate very well. So that improves your aerodynamics. It's the same thing if you have zip wheels. The rims are bigger, and so they recommend that you use 25s. A lot of their testing, they'll use 25. So yeah, so if you got a zip wheel on the front, by all means, put a 25 on the front. Let the tire mate with your rim that you have. Follow the manufacturer's suggestions, because that's the whole point of buying an aerodynamic rim, to get the maximum benefit out of it. So that's my first reason for doing it. My second reason for doing it is because the steering is more precise with a narrower tire. We're splitting hairs. I'm not saying the 25 does not turn as well, but this is more direct handling. So I just like the feel of that. And the reason I put larger tires on the rears, if you think about it, you have more rubber on the ground, your acceleration is better, okay? And it's more comfortable. So I'm even going to 28s. Like I said, I ordered a 28. I want to see how, I bought a wire bead because it's less expensive. So if I don't like it, not the end of the world, but I don't see it being a big deal. I just want to be more comfortable, because if you're comfortable, you're faster. And the wider tires roll, the 25s roll better than the 23s or the 21s. I don't even know if they have 21s out there. They probably do. But they just roll better. So that's my reason for using the 23 on the front. I have a third reason, because this blue bike, and that was not a factor, I was already running 23s. But the fork on that blue bike, because it was built for racing per se, that guy who built it, Tim Neenan, is a crazy rider that used to build bikes. He's retired from bike building. He does a lot of other stuff now. But he put a fork on there from Ritchie that will not allow me to put anything bigger than a 23 because of the way the fork is designed for that aggressive handling, more like a criterium kind of fork. And I run Campagnolo brakes on that bike, which is not a cathedral style, it's flat. And so the bigger tires were rubbing when I tried to put it on there. So the 23s are just better. I didn't want the clearance to be so close. So that's another reason, but that really wasn't a factor. I was already running 23s before I ordered that bike. So the two main reasons are it mates with the rim I'm running better for aerodynamics, and it corners more precisely, it corners better. The narrower tire in the front just steers better, more precise steering. So that's the main reason for doing that. Now, you need to make your tires in the front with your rim because the back is not that much of a big deal. So whatever rim you're riding, try to get the tire that's closest to it. A lot of these manufacturers play with us. They list sizes, and when you air up, these tires are slightly different. So I took my caliper to them, and it just confirms that. And you can read some of the reviews online about tires, and you'll see a lot of the good reviewers post that on there. They talk about the fact that this tire says 23, but when you air it up, it's 24.5 or whatever, you know. That's really what happens. So that's the reason I do that. I want to stress that you don't need to go out and change what you're running currently because it's really not that big a deal. If you have 25s and you're running aluminum rims, wear it out first if you want to try what I'm doing. Don't go spend money on that because it's really not that big a deal. You're not at the world tour level where you're looking for that kind of handling per se. If you're just doing group rides or whatever, wear out the tires. I don't know how Wesley gets 6,000 miles, but he says out of his tires, he says that he rotates them. I don't get anywhere near that. I haven't really tracked it that well, but I change my tires at least once a season. As soon as the tread wears down to where I see a lot of cuts or whatever, I get rid of the tire. I don't like to be on the edge of getting more flats because the tire has kind of worn down. So plus the new rubber just feels great. I buy my tires when they're on sale, so I always have tires stocked up here. I don't run to the bike shop when I'm out of tires. I get them before I need them. So I always keep a list of what tires I'm out of and what I need to do that. So if you're a bigger rider, let's say you over 175 pounds, which is probably like 85 kilos. I'm guessing. Don't hold me to it. I don't have my conversion thing here. But I'm 87 kilos right now because of the Rafa Festive 500. I've really tapered down. So I'm 87 kilos. If you're 87 kilos, 86, 85 to like above 85 kilos, get some bigger tires. They're just more comfortable. They roll better. They're actually faster. Especially on the rear. Put at least a 25 on the rear. You know, I will try the 28 and I will do a video about my experience with the 28 because if I like it, I will convert to 28 on the rear, but I'm still going to keep 23 on the front on these rims. Another one of Wesley's questions I'm going to try to put in here because it relates. He said that your recommendation for wheel or rim depth for avid cyclists, non-racers, who only do fast group rides, centuries, fondos. The rims on your bikes appear to be the same depth. Have you used, say, a 30 millimeter front and a 42? Is it worth the investment for the kind of rides I mentioned? The reason I'm putting it in here because it's related. The orange bike back here that you see, I have Shimano C35 on there. And Shimano C35, the front is slightly smaller than the rear. That's what I currently use on that orange bike. It is part carbon and it has an aluminum braking surface. I prefer the aluminum braking surface because they work best. The Zip wheels, his question, I've ridden Zip 302s on the front and Zip 404 on the rear. I had them staggered because in the crosswinds, when I had both 404s, I was getting blown all over the place. So having the smaller profile on the front and the back with the bigger profile work best. It just worked. That's the way they really should sell it. Because I've even ridden the NV. I think it's called 2 point something anyway. No, NV 3.4. I've used that. I ended up selling it. And I will tell you why. I've mentioned it in other videos. So yes, Wesley, I've sampled all these rims. My issue with the Zips was the noise. Too loud. You might as well be one of the guys in the neighborhood that has a bored out exhaust that when you start your car, you wake up everybody. You're riding with those Zips. As soon as you accelerate, the whole pack knows. Crack, 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 crack. I didn't care for that. I don't know how Shimano did it with the C35. I know they've got the C40 and other ones. And when I do invest in other wheels, those are the ones I will get. They're quiet. The C35 Shimano rides like aluminum rims. No noise, no special care, same brake pads. Those are the reason I got rid of those carbons. I had to put special brake pads on the bike every time I would switch. I don't train on carbon wheels. If you have carbon wheels, don't train on them. Get aluminum wheels to train on. Save your carbon wheels for your grand fondos, whatever you're doing. And so, Wesley, it doesn't matter whether you're a racer or non-racer. My philosophy is, if you get a set of wheels, and let's say, like the one I got, the C35, I got them for like almost $1,000. Some of the other ones are $2,700 or more. If the money you're spending to get those wheels are going to cause you to work more hours, to where you're not able to ride, you're not able to hang out with your family, watch cartoons, play golf, whatever it is that you love to do, don't buy them. The reason is, it's better for you to have the time to do the things you love, including the time to ride, so that you can build the engine to benefit from any wheels that you have. So for example, if you spent $3,000 on a set of carbon wheels, and that caused you to work 60 hours a week, and you can't ride, and you're in a bad mood, you're stressed, you're not sleeping enough, not worth it. Don't bother. It's not worth it because you're not going to be able to tune yourself to get the benefit of the $3,000 you just spent, because the engine needs to be tuned. We laugh, Paul and I see people riding at 15 miles an hour on aero bars on a fancy time trial bike. When we go, you can tell they're not moving. Low cadence, they're going slow. You know, sometimes we come by them or we're going the opposite direction. There's no point in having aero equipment unless you're going to get it up above, say, 32 kilometers an hour. Because that's where most of the testing these companies do. Those are the ranges they're looking at. Some of them, they'll even tell you, like the really deep ditch stuff, they'll tell you, when you get above, say, 50 kilometers an hour, then you really get the maximum benefit out of it. So if you're not going to be able to ride to get your engine to where you can produce those speeds, why bother? There's no benefit to that. You know, I wanted to throw that out. Now, there are people who can afford to buy the wheels to where, meaning that buying this wheel will not take away from the time I currently devote to riding, sleeping, recreation, family. Yes, then get the wheels. But when you get carbon wheels, don't train on them. Serious riders don't train on carbon wheels. They hang them up after their events and they put on aluminum wheels. And in the winter, they go with bigger tires. The bigger tires, you carry less pressure in them. They're less prone to flats. They're more comfortable. So in the winter, they have heavier, well, I'm going to say heavier wheel. I would say sturdier wheels for winter training. For me, it was not worth it. Like you said, Wesley, you're not racing. I'm not racing. I ride with Paul. We do grand fondos and other things now. So for me, I was like, it just made sense to have regular box aluminum wheels, low maintenance. All I got to do is take a rag, wipe the rim when I ride in the rain. That's it. No special care. The C35 Shimano wheels, I don't train on those. I'll take the orange bike because I leave it on there. It seems to look best on that bike. I will take that when I'm going to do grand fondos or whatever. And then sometimes if I just want to ride that frame, I take those C35s off and just put another set of wheels on there if I'm just going to train. Train on your less expensive, sturdier wheels and save your carbon and your other expensive wheels for your events. Don't train on them. And I wanted to get that out so you know. Because there is no point in training on your more expensive / fragile wheels. And then when it's time for your event, you got a problem with the wheel. You want to put that wheel on the bike when it's close to the event to make sure everything's sharpened and tuned. But for all your base miles and your, just your regular training miles, put some sturdier wheels on there so that you don't have any mechanicals and you can just ride. So I wanted to make sure that I answered your question in terms of wheels, because I can't say whether it's worth it or not worth it. It's a matter of preference. If you just want to try it and you can afford it, there's nothing wrong with getting these wheels, but I would recommend that you get them offset. Now, companies like NV, they already sell them offset to where the front is slightly smaller. The rims are set up to where you don't have a lot of problems with crosswind. These rims, as you get deeper dish, the crosswinds really affect you. I used to ride the Zips to where when we had a lot of crosswind, I couldn't take my hands off the bars. It just wasn't safe. You pretty much have to ride the bars. And it was a day where it was just really windy, so it's not like the rim is flawed, but it's more of an issue with those deep dish rims than these regular rims. I do have some of these rims where I have the 25 on there. Not the end of the world. I ride them, but ideally I put the 23 on there because it's closer. The Shimano C35, I put the 23 on the front and the 25 on the rear. Like I told you, I'm testing the 28. If I fall in love with the 28, I will be graduating to just putting the 28 on the rear, where it's not that big a deal because you're not slicing through the wind back there. I'm more for comfort back there. So I hope that this will address the questions you had, because the biggest thing you need to be aware of is you focus more on what is going to enable me to ride more. Meaning that if you have a wheel that requires so much care and you're so worried about it, then you're not going to really get out there and ride them. So get wheels for everyday riding. Is always good for riders. Just like I suggested multiple bikes if you can afford them, you definitely need at least 2 sets of wheels. You need training wheels and you need your event wheels. Then you know your event wheels are just for events. So you do an event, you take it off the bike, you hang it up. So when it's time for an event, you got good quality wheels that are ready for the event, that you didn't beat up with training miles. So you want at least 2 sets of wheels. I have more than 2 sets of wheels because it's over time I've accumulated them because I saw the deals. But the bottom line is you need a set of wheels for training and you need a set of wheels for your event or competition. It doesn't matter whether you're racing or not racing. A lot of times I used to race with box rims, and the guys that had the money to buy all the fancy stuff were still getting dropped because they didn't have the engine. I just want to stress that. It still happens today. It happens on group rides. You've probably seen it. You see guys, we used to ride with UMC. Guys had $3,000 Zips. We were dropping them every weekend like it was nothing on our $300 Zondas. So it's not the wheel that's going to make you faster. It's the work you do. The wheel will enable you to produce more speed in the right condition once you get above that threshold where aerodynamics begin to kick in. So you have to have the engine that can get you above that threshold to maximize the benefits and the capabilities of that wheel. So don't buy aero rim, a $15,000 time trial bike, and then go ride at 15 miles an hour. What's the point? You're not getting the aerodynamic benefit anyway. So if buying these expensive equipment is going to detract from your ability to train, then you're better off without them and you're better off training and have a less expensive bike. I'm stressing that because people have a tendency generally to focus on stuff. The equipment does not make the rider. The rider makes the equipment shine. Okay? You can put a tuned rider on a bike from Walmart. If it fits him, he will drop you just as well. Doesn't matter if you don't have the engine. So people focus too much on that, and I want people to start getting away from, oh, I gotta have this wheel, I gotta have that wheel. I will use an example. I rode with UMC. We used to ride with UMC about a year ago. We were at a light on a street called Kirkendall. And right at that light, when that light changed, there was a sprint sign to the city limit sign. So everybody was geared up. And I was doing like a track stand. I was ready to go. And the light changed and I went balls out. Just blasted away. You know, Paul was there. So I was first across the line. I mean, just, you know, pure power, just executed a good sprint. We get to the parking lot. The first question was, what kind of wheels you riding? That's my point. It never dawned on them is to say, what kind of work you've been doing? What kind of training you've been doing? What kind of wheels you riding? So they look at my wheels and they saw Campagnolo Urus aluminum wheels. Were barely enough aerodynamics. These have just a little bit of a conical shape. That's it. Because the box rims will be really flat. Similar stuff like this I was riding. So then when they looked at my bike, it was a blue bike and I had Urus wheels on there. And they looked at it and realized that it's not the wheels. I didn't have to say anything. They just looked at the wheels and they were quiet and they went in the store. But, you know, so we need to get away from thinking we have to buy stuff that's going to make us faster. You need time and you need the work on your engine and you need the structure. And of course, making sure your bike fits you. That's what makes you fast. And the right kit. The reason I wore this is an aero suit. The reason I wore this to tell you that I'd much rather buy this than $3,000 carbon wheels, because this is what gives the most drag when you're on the bike. I'd much rather pay the money for a bike fit, buy a good piece of kit, and ride box rims. If I had limited funds, I would do it in that order. Especially if buying the kit and getting the fit did not interfere in my ability to train. Because you need time to train and you need to do the work. So that's the way I'm going to end this video. This is just summarize by saying, ride whatever wheels you can afford. Ride durable wheels on your everyday rides. Whether you're commuting or whether you're just going out to get the miles in or the kilometers in, get the strongest wheels that will make sure you're not by the side of the road. Then, if you can afford it and you get your fancy staggered wheels like a 40 millimeter or whatever carbon wheel, hang them up and use them in the event. But don't wait till the day of the event to put them on. Put them on a few days before or early that week and make sure that you're not having any problems with it, especially if you just got them and you haven't used them before. Get them to settle in. So stop focusing so much on equipment. Focus on the engine. Focus on your fit, your kit, and your engine. And that will make you go as fast as possible. And then when you get those wheels, you'll be able to get your money's worth out of them. Any other way, you're just wasting time and money. With that being said, get your K's in. Don't let anything stop you.